People talk about seeing their life flash before their eyes before death. I didn't. All I saw was Amy's face twisted in triumph as she shoved me off the rooftop. Her voice still echoes in my mind. You don't deserve happiness, Emily. You never did. Then, silence, wind, sky, pain. The moment I hit the ground, I should have ceased to exist. But instead, I woke up in my old bedroom, right before our engagement banquet, alive again. Except this time, I remembered everything. The betrayal, the affair, the humiliation. The exact moment Amy, my own sister, sold her soul to survive her marriage and pushed me to my death. My heart raced, but my mind was clear. She thought she could trap me again, that I would quietly accept Logan, the monk prince, while she threw herself at Phil. Not this time. I touched my chest. No blood, no wounds, just the cool silk of the same white gown I wore at the banquet where everything began. Downstairs, I could already hear the voices, the chatter, the clinking glasses. Our lives were about to be intertwined with the powerful Johnson family again, but I wasn't the same girl, and I was done playing nice. When I descended the staircase, all eyes turned toward me, not because of my dress or smile, but because I was calculating every move like a chess master ready to strike. Amy was radiant in red, already clutching Phil's arm like she owned him. Her laugh was fake, her charm weaponized. The very same Phil who, in our last life, had promised me the world. While hiding orgies, STDs, and depraved secrets behind closed doors, Amy leaned over and whispered sweetly, Emily, you look pale. Cold feet? I smiled back. No, just remembering something. Her brows twitched ever so slightly. She didn't like unpredictability. Come on, let's not keep your groom waiting. She gestured across the room, and just like before, she gave me a gentle shove right into Logan's chest. The scent of sandalwood hit me instantly. Clean, controlled, dangerous. He caught me with calm precision, his eyes unreadable. Miss Emily, he said softly. Thank you, I whispered, steadying myself. His eyes lingered. Just for a moment, Amy stepped forward, looping her arm through Phil's. Emily's always been shy. I basically raised her, she said to the guests, her voice dripping with false modesty. She needs a little help now and then. Oh, I said sweetly, turning to Phil. Is that why she told our parents she wouldn't marry anyone but you just an hour ago? Phil's grip on his champagne glass faltered. Amy's smile froze. Checkmate. Already, the engagement banquet spun forward, and Amy danced like the world revolved around her. She twirled in Phil's arms, throwing flirtatious glances, soaking in admiration like it was her birthright. But the guests had noticed the tension. Whispers started. I thought Emily was marrying Logan? Didn't Amy say she hated Phil last week? I stood near the dessert table, silently sipping champagne and watching her spin her little web of lies. Let her. I knew how it would unravel. That night, just like in our past life, she would follow Phil to a hotel suite, desperate to seal the deal. She was terrified I'd take him back, terrified her whole scheme would fall apart. In her mind, physical conquest was victory, but I had a different weapon, strategy. The next morning, right on cue, she called. She wore a silk camisole, her neck covered in dark bruises. A sapphire necklace glittered under the sunlight as she flipped her hair. Emily, she beamed. Last night was unforgettable. I stayed silent. She held up the necklace to the camera. 30 million, from a private auction. Phil said I deserved the best. I sipped my tea. Lovely. The Johnson collection loans nice pieces for special occasions. Her face stiffened. You think I don't know? I added casually. Phil doesn't have that kind of authority yet. Not without Logan's signature. You're jealous, she snapped. Admit it. You're stuck with a husband who'd rather chant scriptures than touch you. I smiled. You say that like it's a bad thing. I sleep alone, but I sleep peacefully. Can you say the same? She blinked. You're scared, I said. Because, deep down, you know what Phil is. He'll devour you just like he did every other woman he's used. She narrowed her eyes, masking the sudden flicker of doubt. I'm the future Mrs. Johnson, she hissed. You'll be lucky too. Get Logan to look at you. Oh, he's looking, I said quietly, and not at you. Click. I hung up before she could respond. That evening, a package arrived. Inside, a hand-carved sandalwood box, and inside it a black card with no spending limit, and a note, for whatever you want. Don't wait for permission. Logan, I stared at it. In our past life, Logan had remained distant for months. We barely spoke. He stayed in temples overseas, anywhere but near me. This time, he was watching, and he had moved first. Interesting. Very interesting. 10 days passed before I saw Logan again. I had started to believe he'd returned to his temples, retreating into that serene detachment he always wore like armor. But then one evening, just as the sun dipped behind the hills, he appeared at my door. No entourage, no warning, just him, dressed in soft gray linen, a porcelain teapot in hand. "We've been married 10 days, he said, pouring 2 cups. With precise, almost meditative focus. "And you've already spent over 100 million. I didn't flinch. "I would have spent more," I replied lightly. "But your black card has a cap." His lips curved just barely. Not mockery, something warmer. "Not many women invest in undeveloped land, auction paintings, and acquire McNess in their first week of marriage," he said. I met his gaze. "Most women aren't me." He studied me then, silent and intense, the air between us thick with unspoken things. Finally, he set his cup down. "Why?" "Because I like you," I answered simply. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. And he knew it. "You think I'll believe that?" I shrugged. "It doesn't matter what you believe. I'm your wife now. What benefits you benefits me. What ruins you ruins me." He exhaled, almost like a laugh. "So we're allies?" I nodded. "Partners." That word seemed to land with weight. For the first time, he looked at me like an equal. He left that night without saying much more, but the next morning, my phone rang. "The land you bought in the Southern District," he said. "Someone I trust is interested in building a mall. There, you name the price." I paused. That plot was gold. I had sold off a villa to buy it, but I smiled and answered, "We're family. No price. Tell them I'll send the deed over today." Silence stretched over the line. Then softly, "What's your angle?" "Like I said," I murmured, "I like you." The phone clicked off, and I knew I had just left a permanent mark on Logan's mind. Meanwhile, Amy was drowning in illusions of power. She flaunted her new identity online, photos with Phil, love bites carefully exposed, her sapphire necklace glinting in every post. She captioned one of her videos, "True love is worth more than money." I commented under it, "Lucky for me, my husband gives me both." My replies exploded with likes. She blocked me that evening, but blocking me wouldn't stop what was coming. 2 days later, I was invited to a private Johnson gala. I expected Amy to try and outshine me, and she didn't disappoint. She arrived in a custom red dress, her hand in Phil's, parading him like a trophy. The problem? Phil had already arrived an hour earlier with another woman, and he didn't even try to hide it. I watched Amy's eyes widen, her smile freeze, and the cracks begin to show. I made my entrance 10 minutes later, wearing a simple but rare diamond-studded black dress and antique, one-of-a-kind piece that had belonged to a European countess. It had no label, no tags, just history and elegance. And Logan arrived beside me. The crowd gravitated toward us instantly. They whispered, took photos. Logan stood still, calm, but I could feel his quiet pride radiating through the way he adjusted the hem of my dress and placed his hand gently on my back. It was possessive, but not forceful. When Phil glanced our way, his eyes darkened. I caught Amy glaring daggers at me. I smiled at her and raised my glass. She didn't return the gesture. After the gala, Amy called me. Her voice was brittle. "Emily, what game are you playing?" "I'm just living my life," I replied innocently. "You should try it." "Instead of chasing mine, stay away from Phil," she snapped. "You had your chance. You chose Logan." "Did I?" I asked calmly. "Or did you shove me into his arms?" There was silence. Then she hung up. I could imagine her, pacing in her overpriced heels, furious that the life she fought so hard for was still slipping from her fingers. Logan became involved. Not emotional, not romantic, not yet, but deliberate. He started showing up to meetings, inviting me to private networking events, and placing me in rooms I once only dreamed of entering. These weren't Phil's type of parties full of drunk heirs and whispering mistresses. These were the real power circles. Diplomats, legacy CEOs, foreign investors. I played my cards well. Knowledge from my past life gave me an edge. I spoke when it mattered, listened when it didn't, and smiled just enough to keep them curious. One night, after such an event, Logan and I drove home in silence. The city lights passed us like blinking secrets. Then he said, "You're not like anyone I've met." I turned to him. "You don't know anyone like me." He glanced over. "You're dangerous." I smiled. "So are you." There was a long pause, then he nodded. "Good, we'll need that." The next morning, I received an invitation from the Johnson matriarch, a private brunch. It was a test. I dressed modestly, arrived on time, and let her speak. She talked about tradition, family, discipline. I listened. Then she brought up Amy. "She's young, passionate, but impulsive. We worry she might be too emotional." I sipped my tea. "Amy's charm is her strength, but charm doesn't run a business." The matriarch raised an eyebrow. "You think you can?" "I already have," I replied. "But if you want me to prove it again, give me the weakest division in story group. I'll turn it around." That surprised her. "Fashion," she said. "It's been bleeding money for a decade." "Perfect," I said. She nodded slowly. "1 month," she said. "If you fail, you're out. And if I succeed?" I asked. "Then I'll give you what you really want." She didn't say what that was, but I already knew. By the time I stepped outside, the sun was hot against my skin. I had just walked into the lion's den and I was going to tame it. The moment I stepped into the office of Story Group's fashion division, I understood why it had failed. The lobby was dusty, the branding outdated, and the staff looked like they were waiting to be laid off. The walls were lined with framed photos of collections no one remembered, designs that belonged in clearance bins. Half the employees didn't look up from their phones when I entered. The other half were blank expressions that said, "Another Johnson wife playing dress up in business." They thought I wouldn't last a week. By the end of that first afternoon, I had fired 2/3 of them. Not out of anger but strategy. Most were overpaid relatives, coasting on family connections, offering nothing but complaints and delays. They were dead weight. I sent out a mass email that afternoon, effective immediately. All departments will submit weekly progress reports. There will be no exceptions. Laziness has left the building. Logan showed up that evening, a takeout bag in hand. He didn't say anything at first, just handed me noodles and sat across from my desk. I kept working. "I heard what you did," he said after a few minutes. "The board is shaken." "Good," I muttered through a mouthful of spicy broth. "Shaking is better than snoring." He leaned back, watching me. "You're making enemies." I looked him dead in the eyes. "I'm building something. Enemies come with the territory." He didn't argue. He just ate in silence, and when we were done, he cleaned the takeout containers, poured me tea from the flask he'd brought, and said, "Let me know who you need. I'll help." I didn't say thank you. I didn't need to. The way he looked at me said he already understood. I didn't waste time. I drove straight to the National Art Institute and asked for Professor Yao, the top mentor in fashion design. I laid out my plan, my budget, my challenge. "Give me your best students," I said. "I'll give them a shot at the industry." Within a week, I had a fresh team. And with them, I launched something that had never been done before in this company, a design contest with prize money real enough to change someone's life. First prize, 300,000. Second, 200,000. Third, 1,000. Top entries would be showcased at a public gala. Winners would be hired on the spot. Applications flooded in. And for the first time in years, the Story fashion floor buzzed with life. Meanwhile, Amy was busy ruining her own department's Story hotels and Story jewelry. Her main talent was posing for press photos, posting selfies, and screaming at staff when things went wrong. She thought social media love translated into business. She thought being glamorous meant being respected. All it did was make her look desperate. So I gave her something real to deal with, anonymously of course. I leaked footage of her hotel's filthy conditions, maids using toilet brushes to wipe drinking glasses, sheets stained with mold, roaches, and luxury suites. I sent the videos to influencers, travel bloggers, and news outlets. Within 48 hours, the hashtag Story Hotel Horror was trending. The next day, a second storm hit. A viral expose revealing that half the jewelry pieces in Amy's latest collection were copied knockoffs from Eastern European brands. Designers she had refused to pay were now suing her. Her carefully curated image was now in flames. She called me in tears, voice shaking, rage hidden under forced calm. "Emily," she said, "I just want to talk. Sister to sister." I let her ramble, pretending I was confused, concerned, innocent. "Oh no, Amy. I said sweetly. You must be under a lot of pressure. If there's anything I can do, don't you dare act like this isn't your doing, she hissed. I know you leaked those videos. I gasped. Why would I do that? We're family. She hung up. Later that night, I got a message from Logan. Just 2 words. Well played. I slept like a queen. 3 weeks into my fashion takeover, the gala happened. It was invitation only, held in the old opera house downtown, complete with spotlight runways and full orchestral accompaniment. I sent invites to every major investor, editor, celebrity, and designer in the country. I even sent Amy one just to rub it in. To the world's surprise, the designs were breathtaking, raw, original, bold, not recycled trends. These were fresh visions from hungry, untrained talent, and they were hungry to prove themselves. Models walked the runway. Buyers clapped. Designers cried. By the end of the night, every piece had sold out. Even the ones that hadn't been produced yet had back orders. We didn't just make a profit, we wiped out 10 years of losses in a single night. I stood backstage, watching the crowd roar, camera flashes popping like fireworks, and I felt something twist in my chest. Not pride, power, the kind that couldn't be faked with a necklace or a husband's credit card. Real, earned power. Logan appeared beside me, wearing a black tailored suit that hugged his lean frame like it was sewn onto him. He looked down at me and murmured, "You did it." "No," I corrected. "We did." He didn't smile. Not exactly, but there was something in his eyes, warm, proud, protective. "Let's go home," he said. And for once, when he said home, it felt real. Amy didn't show up to the gala after all, but she made sure the media still had something to talk about. The next morning, tabloids were flooded with headlines. Future Mrs. Johnson snubbed by sister-in-law. Johnson's sisters feuding over power. Emily goes rogue. Every photo of me was paired with an old one of her, smiling beside Phil. Every article tried to spin the story like I had backstabbed my way to the top. I knew exactly who leaked it, and I let her, because the public had eyes. It didn't take long for them to realize the truth. A few days later, Logan and I were invited to the main Johnson estate for a small family gathering. Grandpa Johnson's birthday. It was usually Phil's stage. He was the oldest, the favorite, the presumed heir, and Amy loved to bask in that borrowed spotlight. This time was different. We arrived 10 minutes late intentionally. When we walked in, the room fell silent. Logan's hand rested gently on the small of my back, his touch subtle but firm. He walked like he didn't care who was watching. I walked like I owned the room. Everyone stood. They toasted us. Not Phil. Amy sat at the far end of the table, pale under her makeup, her smile brittle. Even Grandpa Johnson waved us over. "Logan, come sit by me. Bring your wife." Wife, not daughter-in-law, not +1. Wife. I saw Amy grip the edge of her wine glass a little too tight. Her knuckles turned white. Phil, for once, didn't say a word. He kept sipping his drink, eyes darting between us and Amy. After dinner, I stepped out onto the balcony. Logan followed. He handed me a small velvet pouch. Inside was a bracelet, delicate lotus seed prayer beads, smooth and warm to the touch. I turned them in my fingers. "I carved them myself," he said, voice low. "Took me over a month." I blinked. "Why?" He leaned on the railing beside me, eyes fixed on the skyline. "Because I used to think silence was peace, that detaching from the world meant wisdom. But you make me want to fight for things again." I looked up at him, and for the first time since our marriage, I saw not just the cold monk prince but the man underneath. He turned to face me, his gaze soft but unflinching. "You scare me, Emily." I laughed. "Good, you scare me too." There was something between us now, no longer just an alliance, not quite love, but something dangerous and undeniable. A crack in the armor, a soft place in the storm. He didn't kiss me. He didn't have to. The air between us did more than lips ever could. That night, he didn't return to his study. He followed me into the bedroom, and for the first time, the silence between us wasn't cold. It was warm, trusting, deep. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. The next morning, I woke up to find him gone, but a handwritten note sat beside the bed. "Whatever happens next, I'm on your side." And that was when I knew. I hadn't just married a name, I had claimed an empire. And I wasn't done yet. Amy, however, was unraveling fast. The board had begun cutting her budget. Her projects were under audit. Her PR team had jumped ship. Even Phil was getting cold. snapping at her in meetings, avoiding public events, and disappearing for nights at a time. She still had her jewelry and makeup endorsement deals, but her online image was beginning to crack. Behind the filters and fake smiles, people could smell the desperation. Then she made her biggest mistake yet. She hosted a public charity event, a desperate attempt to win back goodwill. Cameras, influencers, all eyes on her. And just before she walked on stage, a technical glitch caused a backstage mic to go live, and the whole room heard her say, "Honestly, these peasants should be thanking me for breathing the same air. If I have to shake one more sweaty hand, I swear I'll throw up." The internet exploded. Within hours, #AmyCancelled was trending worldwide. I wasn't the one who leaked it, but I knew who did. Phil. That same night, Amy showed up at my office, red-faced, trembling, mascara running. She didn't knock. She stormed in. "You think you've won?" she hissed. I leaned back in my chair, perfectly calm. "Haven't I? You stole my husband, my spotlight, my future." I stood slowly, walked over to her, and whispered, "I didn't steal anything. You gave it all away the moment you pushed me into Logan's arms." Her hand lifted, ready to slap me, but the door opened before she could strike. Logan, he didn't say a word, just stepped beside me, slipped his hand into mine, and looked Amy dead in the eye. "Are you threatening my wife?" Amy froze. Her confidence vanished. She stammered, tried to smile. "You misunderstood. I was just talking to Emily. You know how sisters are." Logan tilted his head. "You're not her sister. You're her mistake." Amy staggered back like he'd hit her. "Next time," he said calmly, "don't come without an invitation." She left, humiliated, tears brimming in her eyes. I watched her go, heart steady, and then I turned to Logan. "You really meant that?" "I've never said anything more clearly," he answered. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a key card to the entire top floor. "Your new office." I stared at it. He smiled faintly. "You're going to need more space to run this company." Amy tried to recover. She really did. A few fake charity posts, some teary live stream apologies, and endless photo ops with Phil. But nothing could mask the truth anymore. Not when the entire upper circle knew what Phil was, knew what he liked, knew where he spent his nights. I didn't even have to leak anything this time. The whispers were louder than any headline. And then came the explosion. It started with a viral video taken inside Phil's private VIP booth at his favorite members-only bar. At first, you couldn't see much, just loud music, laughter. But then the camera shifted, and there he was, Phil, shirtless, grinding against a woman in drag. Then another angle, he wasn't just dancing. He was doing lines of powder off someone's thigh while a circle of half-naked friends clapped and cheered. His face was unmistakable. Amy found out the way everyone else did. On social media, the post had 1 million views in under an hour. And she lost it. She stormed into the bar that same night, dragging along a group of girlfriends and a security team. But Phil was too far gone, drunk, high, half-naked, and in no mood for drama. When Amy screamed at the drag queen Miss Zoe, Phil didn't defend his wife. He defended Zoe. And when Amy slapped her, Phil slapped Amy, twice. Someone filmed the entire thing. The next morning, Amy was trending again. Only this time, it was #AmyBeaten, #PhilExposed, and #JohnsonScandal all at once. When I saw the footage, my stomach turned, not out of sympathy, but revulsion. Not for her, for what she'd become. Bruised, hysterical, humiliated, but still clinging to him like he was her savior. She showed up at the hospital with 3 broken ribs and a cracked nose. Logan's parents rushed to visit her. The family gathered around her bed with pity in their eyes. But Phil was nowhere. It took Grandpa Johnson slapping him across the face and threatening to disown him before he even pretended to care. That night, he kneeled in front of Amy and promised her the world, a private island, a 30 million estate, no more affairs. She believed him. She always did. A week later, she came to see me, head still wrapped in gauze, limping slightly. "People fight," she said, sitting in my office like she hadn't just been publicly disgraced. "Marriage isn't perfect. You and Logan don't fight because there's no passion between you. You're just business partners. You're alone." I said nothing. She leaned closer. "At least my husband comes home to me. What about yours? When's the last time you saw Logan without a meeting involved? You don't have a marriage. You have a contract." I smiled calmly. Better a contract than an open wound. She flinched. "And I didn't stop. Tell me, Amy, when was your last STD test? Her face turned gray. You should, I added softly. Phil doesn't discriminate. Gender, species, sobriety. It's all the same to him. She stood abruptly, nearly knocking over the chair. Liar. Then you've got nothing to worry about, I said. Go get tested. She left, silent, shaking. That night, I anonymously sent her the full footage. Every party, every face, every filthy, disgusting second. And just like that, she vanished from the public eye. Meanwhile, I stayed very visible. My fashion brand exploded. Orders from international markets poured in. Celebrities wore our designs on red carpets. Editors named me the new blood of luxury. Logan watched all of it from the shadows, never asking for credit, never trying to interfere, until one night, he knocked on my door and said simply, "There's a vote coming up. They want a new CEO." I turned toward him. You. He shook his head. No, you. I blinked. You're the Johnson heir. You've earned. I didn't earn any of this, he said, walking toward me. I was pushed aside since birth. Phil got everything. I was just the quiet one, the disposable one. I stared at him. You're not disposable now. He stepped closer. You've made this company rise in a way no one else could. I have power because I married you. But you shine on your own. There was something raw in his eyes, something vulnerable. Emily, he said quietly, if you want it, I'll back you. Every vote, every share, I'll hand it to you. I walked toward him slowly, carefully, my voice steady. Then tell me one thing, truthfully. Why me? You barely looked at me before. You ignored me for months. And now you protect me, follow me, believe in me. He reached out, touching my wrist where his carved bracelet rested. I watched. You die, he whispered. My breath caught. In my past life, he said slowly, I saw what Amy did to you. I found your body. I saw the blood. I held your hand when it was already cold. I stared at him, unblinking. I remember everything, he said. Just like you. I couldn't speak. Not at first. Not when Logan's words tore open something in me I had buried so deep I almost forgot it was real. He remembered everything. My death, Amy's push, the cold rooftop, the way my blood painted the pavement like shattered roses. When I finally whispered, I started remembering after our engagement, he said. At first it came in dreams, then memories, bits and pieces. The more I saw you, the clearer it became. I looked at him, really looked. The man who had once bound Amy in prayer beads, the one who once let her rot in silence and darkness. And I realized it wasn't hatred that drove him back then. It was grief. You knew Amy killed me? I asked quietly. He nodded. I didn't remember soon enough to stop it last time. He stepped forward. But this time, I swore I would. My chest ached. For all the power I had fought for, all the victories I had claimed, I had buried. My heart under armor. But Logan, he had never looked at me like this before. Like I was something sacred. Not a pawn, not a strategy, just me. I took his hand. He held it like it was the only thing anchoring him to the earth. The shareholder vote came 2 days later. It was supposed to be symbolic. Logan was the heir. Everyone expected him to take the seat. Amy had already called in favors, thinking she could control him through legacy. But Logan didn't even show up. Instead, he sent a sealed letter. I declined the nomination. My vote, and full executive support, goes to my wife Emily Gu. She is the future of this company. The room was stunned. I walked in a moment later, calm, dressed in sharp black, heels clicking like thunder. I took my seat at the head of the boardroom. The old guard resisted. They muttered, protested, tried to question my authority, until I opened the portfolio in front of me and revealed exactly what I had prepared. 10 years of operational losses reversed. A fashion brand once mocked as a joke now leading global. Charts. 3 international acquisitions already in process. Signed, sealed, and one more thing. Before you decide, I said, sliding a USB across the table. Watch what I stopped from going public. This is what your current heir, Phil, has been hiding. The video played. Even the most jaded investors paled. Drugs, violence, money laundering, affairs, bribes. I didn't release this footage to the media, I said, because I still believe in this company's future. But make no mistake, if I'm out, this goes public. By the end of that meeting, the vote was unanimous. Emily Gu, chairwoman and CEO of Story Group. I didn't smile. I had already seen the end of this movie once before. Now, I was rewriting it. Amy didn't show up to the meeting, but I knew she wouldn't stay quiet for long. Sure enough, that night, I received a message from her. One word: rooftop. Just like before, I didn't hesitate. I went. She stood there, wearing a long red satin dress, the wind whipping it around her like fire. Her eyes were wild, hollow, her lipstick smeared like blood, and in her hand was a knife. Emily, she said, almost softly, we're here again. I walked toward her slowly. You wanted this. You took everything from me, she spat. My husband, my name, my future. No, I replied. You threw it all away the moment you pushed me off this very building. She laughed, unhinged. You think you're better than me now? Just because Logan loves you? Just because the world claps for you? No, I said calmly. I'm better because I survived you. She lunged, but I was faster. I dodged, grabbed her wrist, twisted it until the knife clattered to the ground. She screamed and shoved me, hard. But I didn't fall. This time, I was ready. And then came the sound of heavy boots, armed officers swarming. The rooftop, weapons raised. Step back. One shouted. Amy froze, trembling. I picked up the knife and held it out calmly. She tried to kill me. Again. They arrested her on the spot. I walked away without looking back. That night, Logan waited for me at home, sitting in the garden, a teacup steaming in his hands. She's gone, I said. I know. She'll serve time. A long one. He didn't speak, just poured me a cup of tea and placed the lotus bracelet on my wrist. I looked at him. You still believe in karma? I believe in you, he said. Amy was sentenced to 15 years in prison for attempted murder. The trial was swift, the evidence airtight, and thanks to some well-placed calls, she was placed in the worst block, one known for chewing people up from the inside out. I didn't visit, not once. No letters, no forgiveness. Some debts are better paid in silence. Phil, on the other hand, was not so lucky, or maybe he was even less lucky, because just as the public began to forget him, just as Amy was locked away, I released everything, footage of his drug-fueled orgies, the underage girls, the fraud, the laundering. The whispers became roars. The police acted fast. His so-called friends vanished the moment subpoenas were issued. He tried to flee the country. They caught him at a private airstrip, wearing a wig and sunglasses, like a washed-up celebrity clinging to relevance. Phil Johnson was sentenced to 25 years without parole. His fall was public, violent, complete. He was the heir. Now he was nothing. The Story Group reclaimed all of his shares, every luxury property, every offshore account, frozen, absorbed, and the board handed full control to me. The day I was sworn in officially as chairwoman, Logan stood beside me, dressed in a gray suit and black tie, silent but watchful. The boardroom bowed as I entered. Cameras flashed. Executives rose to their feet, but I wasn't smiling for them. I was smiling because I knew I had finally won. Not revenge, not money, control over my life, over my name, over every breath I took from this day forward. That night, Logan and I stood on the rooftop of the New Story headquarters, the same height Amy once tried to kill me from. But this time, I stood tall, whole, untouched. He handed me a cup of tea, steam curling around us like mist. You still wear it, he said softly, looking at the bracelet he carved with his own hands. I nodded. It still protects me. He touched my wrist, then looked out at the city. I'm sorry I couldn't save you the first time. I turned to him. You did. This time, there was no grand speech, no dramatic kiss, just the two of us, watching the skyline, side by side. As equals, he had let go of the past, and I had chosen peace not because I had to, but because I earned it. The world below moved like a machine I had mastered. Every connection, every deal, every enemy fallen. I had built myself back from dust and betrayal, and now I ruled. They called me the ghost who rose from the grave, the queen who tore down her sister's throne, the legend who turned pain into empire. But to me, I was simply Emily. And no longer the forgotten wife. And no longer a victim. I had died once, now I lived louder than ever, and as the city lights blinked beneath me like stars bowing in tribute, I smiled, because this time, I wasn't surviving, I was conquering.